Hi, I'm Stewart Whicker, and today we're going to be talking with Suzy Corry, who is an Olympic gold medalist. She won gold at the Athens 2004 Summer Olympics, and also gold and bronze medalist at the 2006 Commonwealth Games in Melbourne. So thank you for being here, and we're going to be talking about mindsets of champions. So fantastic to have you, someone that's been to the pinnacle, been to the top. So let's get started with, tell us about the beginning, your beginning in shooting. What got you into shooting?
Gosh, my parents are pretty competitive. Mum's played competitive tennis and badminton, basketball, she's only 5 foot. Tennis and badminton. She was a PE teacher as well. So she always had this instinctive drive to teach us to compete. And my dad's been a competitive shooter for well over 50 years now. And so I obviously followed them into a lot of different sports, which I did at a relatively high level, so your netball, basketball and softball type thing. But going shooting was just to spend time with my dad and my little brother. And so really it was just something that eventually I learnt was a challenge for me and a challenge for myself. So team sports are quite different. You're relying on a lot of different pieces to fit into the puzzle, whereas close target shooting is basically individual. So you're just you and that target, and you're trying to compete against yourself. And so that's how I got into it, was just the challenge and the drive to improve myself and test myself under pressure.
What are some of the biggest challenges to peak performance, and how did you develop over time?
Challenges to peak performance is life. Everything getting in the way of things. I think one of the key things that makes me an elite athlete is that I can compartmentalise. So when you're assessing an athlete or someone, you're looking at all the pieces of the pie that makes them up into this perfect athlete. So it would be fitness and mental toughness and technique and coaching skills and financial backing and education and relationships and support, all these type of things that fit in the pie. I'm one of these people that can actually go out and say, okay, forget that, you know, I've got an assignment due, or forget that I've got to pay a bill, or forget that I've got to meet someone for dinner, or whatever it is, or I've just had a big fight with my husband or something. It's basically task at hand, focus on that. And I'm really good at compartmentalising, so focusing on that. So that's something important there.
Do you think mental toughness, people are born with mental toughness, or it's something that they develop over time from when they're children?
I think we all have it, but there's different things in life that alert us to it or open us up to it. Humans are innately mentally tough in that, think of caveman, you know, when you're in that fight or flight, there's a very large portion of us that will fight. We're so scared that saber-toothed tiger's coming at us. We will mentally focus and just fight that tiger. We'll forget about everything that's happening around us. There are a few of us that will freeze, and there's a few that will run, but generally the human is designed to fight if they're put in that stressful position. It just depends on if we're aware that we need to actually be mentally tough and that we've been put in those situations. So opening people's eyes to it. I think we all have mental toughness, but to what degree, it depends on how willing you are to delve into it.
So it can be developed, mental toughness?
I believe so, for sure. I've got tougher and tougher as I've gone on through the years, and I do a lot of coaching now, and I see 14, 15, 16-year-olds that shoot brilliantly, but they've kind of got these blinkers on that they haven't got any expectations on them. So their mental toughness is pretty basic. I see the target, shoot the target, beat the guy next to them. There's no, you know, is he a professional athlete? Is the money not going to be there for him if he doesn't perform? Is he going to be able to, you know, hold his head up high in front of his peers and stuff like that? Does he not want to be beaten by the little kid? Those type of things. So that pressure comes onto you. So to cope with that over time, you've got to become tougher. So I believe that it's kind of like a kit bag that once you experience something, you put it into your kit bag, and the next time you're challenged with that situation, you go through your kit bag and you say, oh, that's how I handled it last time. I handled it poorly. Maybe I'll try this new technique. Or when I came across that challenge last time, I did use this technique. It worked. I'm going to use it again. So I honestly believe that our mental toughness gets better as we practice it more.
As a coach in this time in your career, looking back from mentors and coaches, what's some of the best advice that you've ever received from a mentor?
Two mentors. One was my dad, and he always said, hit your first target, deal with your first target, okay? Deal with the one at hand. So often you'll be shooting, say, double rise or double trap or something like that, where there's two targets. Focus on your first one, the second one will come naturally. So that's great advice. People kind of stress about both of them. Whereas, sure, plan for both of them, but focus on the first one, and then when you've achieved that, move on to the next. So one target at a time. That's big advice.
One target at a time.
And then the other one was the coach I had during the Olympics in Athens, and his advice was basically, you've got to learn how to miss. And that was very early on in my career. And
it's interesting you say that, because as a professional tennis coach, I teach the kids, before you can win, you need to learn how to lose.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of people are just out there trying to win, focusing on winning, and they lose sight that winning is actually something that happens at the end. And the process that you go through is the most important.
Yeah, I've learnt very much that I need to set process goals to achieve those outcome or those dream goals. You've got to make sure you do the little steps to get to the bigger ones, so follow your process. But part of that process is that if you do drop a target or you do lose, or in tennis it might be you've just served a double fault, chin up, move on to the next one. That's gone. You've got to move on. And if you can't do that, then you start mentally beating yourself up, and you'll just keep digging a bigger hole and a bigger hole, and you'll miss the next target because you're not prepared for it, you're not focused for it. So the Olympic disciplines are really, really tough compared to other type of clay target shooting, because it's all designed to put the pressure onto you, that one target in front of you. If you're slightly off your game, it's gone, it's past you. It's like returning a serve off a big server. You know, if you're slightly not switched on, or you're wandering in your mind or so on, you're not gonna face it very well. Even though you might have the skills, you've got to have the mental toughness to get in there and give it your all. So yeah, you've got to learn how to miss. Get over it and move on.
How important do you think mentors are in that development of mental toughness?
I'm someone that hasn't got too many mentors. I kind of learn a little bit off everybody. I'm an odd character in that.
So everyone's a mentor.
Everyone's a mentor. People often ask me, you know, who do you look up in sport or something like that? Well, the odd thing is I actually look up at my mum's tennis group. So mum's 77 now. The rest of the ladies are between 65 to 90. And they've been playing tennis together for 50 years. Every Thursday morning, rain, hail or shine, they'll come together, have a hit and have a cuppa. And they love their tennis. And they're all different skills and stuff like that. And every now and then they bring their kids along, so I've got to know all the ladies and so on. But I just look that they love turning up, the camaraderie, they love their sport. They all go off to the Australian Open or the tennis, local tennis matches or whatever it is, and they really, really love their sport, and they're all trying to improve and so on. But it comes down to that they accept each other, and they're not going to all be brilliant every day. And
so it's the journey with the people.
Absolutely, and the sport as well. It's a journey of the sport, because now, you know, like when my mum first started playing with them, she would have been, you know, a really not world class. She was a really good local tennis player. And then as she's got older and life's got in the way and everything like that, you know, her skills have diminished. And then now she's, you know, 77, so she's still pretty good on the court. But a few of the other ladies, their journey is getting a bit diminished at the moment. Yeah. So
enjoyment with friends and the experiences that you get from the sport.
Yeah.
And where it takes you. So
I think having them as what I look up to has helped me in sport, in that I make sure that I'm always enjoying it. Like I remember the London Olympics, you know, I broke the Olympic record to get into the final, went into the final in bronze medal position, and I shot a terrible final. And yet, if you look back at the video footage of it, I'm there smiling because I can remember thinking to myself, wow, I'm here doing this again. This is amazing. I love what I do. And, you know, you've got to remember that you enjoy what you do. You've got to do what you love. And you've got to remember that there is a journey. So there's going to be highs and lows, and that we do learn from, you know, having setbacks and that. It makes you tough. It makes you come back. If you were perfect the whole time, who's the challenge? You know, you want to lose. You want to drop a set every now and then.
So my last question is, what
My younger self. It would definitely be about setting goals. I really hadn't had anybody set me aside and teach me about goal setting, about process goals and outcome goals, and trying to achieve a bigger picture. It's kind of an advantage to me. I'm very adaptable and I just go with the flow, and I'm fortunately generally above average in what I do, so I can pick up those skills on it. I know it sounds terrible,
I like the confidence. It's good. Well, you need to be. You don't get to be an Olympic gold medalist if you don't have confidence.
Yeah, so, and I said above average, so I could be 51%, you know? But anyway, so I think if I really had learnt about goal setting earlier, I would have achieved things better, and in work as well. Like, you know, I went into a great career that I just kind of muddled through for the first while, and then actually after I'd won a gold medal and learned how to set goals, it was like, oh, I can do this properly in work as well. So then I set myself goals for work, and I achieved those goals. So, and I even do that now in my coaching. So learning about goal setting is really important, and I honestly didn't really have anybody introduce it to me or follow it through with me. And this is something I work with my athletes that I coach so much, is you need to have a goal to work towards. If not, you're just floundering. And it's actually proven that if you set goals, you're much more likely to excel or proceed. So it's a huge thing.
What do you think, as a younger person, you were saying that your goal setting wasn't that great, so...
I didn't set goals.
You didn't? It was non-existent?
I just rocked up, had a shot, if I made the team, but I didn't even think about making the team.
So this has to be a common theme with a lot of kids or young people, that they don't have goals or aspirations that, you know, that they're going to work towards.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
I think it might just be that we're getting a bit fluffy in society, in that, you know, everybody's a winner, here's your participation certificate, which is nice, but at some stage they've got to learn that there is a real world out there, and that you need to set things, whether it's in the big picture, you know, it could be saving up for a loan to buy a house, or paying off your first car, or, you know, saving to go on a holiday with friends or something. Those type of things, I mean, they're financial real world goals. Sports, the same type of thing. You know, when you're a kid, you could dream of going to the Olympics, but how do you get there? How do you make your first step, you know? What's your first goals that you're going to do when you start? And I kind of look at monitoring your progress is one thing that helps you out, but setting process goals, like making sure that you've got the foundations, the basics. For you guys in tennis, it'd be, are you holding the racket correctly? Are you doing, is your service technique correct? In shooting, it's exactly the same. Is your stance right? Is your eye contact with the target? Are you moving to the target correctly? And then you're adding in mental toughness stuff as well, like challenging yourself. Can I shoot 100 targets straight in a row? Can I go out there and win this shoot off and beat someone else? They're just little process goals that if you're achieving those on your journey, then you can achieve that big goal at the end. And I definitely learnt that at the Sydney Olympics. I'd only been shooting the Olympic discipline for about 2 years when the Sydney Olympics came along. And I was right up there. I just missed out on qualifying, but it hadn't been a goal or a dream of mine even to go to the Olympics at that stage. And then they called me up and said, Suzy, do you want to come along to the Olympics and be a filler, like make up numbers, no name, no country? So I jumped at the chance, and I came along to the Sydney Olympics, and I got to shoot in with the athletes. So it's a bit like a swimming race where, you know, you want to have 8 people in it, but there's only 5 or 7 people in it. So they add in a few extras to just make up numbers so the pool flows properly or so on. So you're filling it up. So basically I came along, no name, no country, and I would have made both the double trap and the trap finals that year. And it was then I realised I want to go to Olympics, and more, I want a name and I want a country. So I actually sat down, and for the first time in my life, I worked out all the competitions I had to go to over the next 4 years. That I needed, you know, to go see optometrists, sports psychs, that I needed to get fitter, I needed strength. I looked at, you know, what goals did I have to set along the way, you know, what little challenges. And I had them all set out and I marked them off. And then leading up to the Athens Olympics, I also had mapped out the whole day's competition, you know, in each scenario, what happens if I'm in front, what happens if I'm behind. So I'd already mentally run all those things through my mind. So goal setting is just, you need it. And you need it in everything, even in relationships.
So what's that saying? If you don't plan to succeed, you plan to fail, or something?
Yeah.
You know,
well, you're likely you're going to fail.
I probably stuffed that up,
yeah.
But yeah, so planning is definitely one of the keys to success. If you don't plan your future, plan your path, like a roadmap, you're never going to get to the destination.
Absolutely. And mental toughness is like that as well. Like you're experiencing those things, and so that you've acknowledged, the next time I'm challenged with that, then I've got a plan for it.
Do you think that's really interesting, because when you were younger, you didn't really have that. How many siblings in your family?
I've got 2 sisters and a brother.
2 sisters and a brother.
We were competitive, but we weren't planned. It was like we were going to beat each other at a game of badminton today. It wasn't like planned for a week ahead. Everything was in the now. You need to be in the present and be, you know, self-aware when you're actually competing, but you still have processes that you need to follow and goals.
Did your environment change? Obviously did change, to go from shooting with your family to, you know, shooting in a competition to, you know, so the people that you were around, did they help you along with that?
Not enough to start with. Look, I'd been in the national team, I'd had lectures on various things and so on, but I didn't have a personal coach, and at that stage shooting wasn't a professional sport. These days it's a professional sport. I mean, we've got you know, AIS programs and stuff like that. We've got you know, development of athletes. Back in those days you had a bit of talent ID and come along and have a shot. No one actually spent time working on with a coach, planning out your career or your year or anything like that.
Do you think, I mean, I was going to say, do you think things would be different, but you kind of wouldn't change anything? Do you think you would have had earlier success if you did have those goal setting and planning? And
yeah, I don't know if I would have had success. I might have achieved elite things in shooting earlier, but I also have a little bit of a belief that because I'd had all my life experiences, I was 31 when I won my gold medal, and I'd only been shooting the Olympic discipline since I was 27. So, you know, I had a big chunk of, you know, almost 10 years where I really didn't compete too much. You know, I'd still make the odd national team, but it wasn't a focus. Uni and then work was. If I didn't have all those other life experiences and things that I could compartmentalise and push away. Hadn't set up financial structure. I hadn't set up a supportive background. I hadn't set up work that I could take leave from. If I hadn't all those pieces of the pie already in place, I think my shooting would have suffered for it, because I kind of did the whole thing backwards. But often people will take on a sport without those structures in place. So sure, their sport will build, but when they get to the pointy end, they haven't got all those other life experiences or the pieces of the pie in place. So somehow I did, yeah. And so I think the goal setting would have helped me get all that earlier. I would have known, look, you know, I need a career that gives me enough money and enough time off to go and shoot and travel the world. I would have made sure I had a coach and a physio and stuff like that earlier on. So it's just moving that pie piece a bit earlier, I suppose. So yeah, it could have happened, but in my way, I know that I'd fought long and hard to get myself to those Olympics, and the success, like, you know, the best feeling about winning a gold medal is satisfaction, knowing that you'd set a goal, a massive goal, all those hard years of putting all those pieces in the pie, and you achieved it. So even London, like I didn't win in London, but the same thing. I'd set myself up for, you know, having a wonderful shoot. And I did. A PB, what more can you ask for in an Olympics? It was a national and a personal best. It just happened to be that some other girls who were fully funded were professional. I was working 2 full-time jobs at the time as well. That's crazy. Like I was just travelling left, right and centre for work and shooting and everything. I think that, you know, I was really happy that I'd been able to achieve those process goals. If I'd just gone to the London Olympics and said, I want to win a gold medal, I would have been bitterly disappointed. These girls, they just shot brilliantly. One of them only missed 1 target the whole day, and it was a horrible weather conditioned day. So how can you beat someone that's just, you know, having an amazing day, even though you're performing at your peak? So I performed at my peak, and I was so happy.
Well, on that, thank you so much for the interview, for talking today about mental toughness, and hopefully a few people took away a few golden nuggets, a couple of gold medals, gold nuggets, and thank you.
Cool, no worries, Stuart. Always welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.